Is big tech's strength waning? Let's bring in Dan Gallagher, reporter for the Wall Street Journal, and Ross Gerber, CEO and president of Gerber Kawasaki. Dan, you wrote in the Wall Street Journal that the numbers tell a complicated story about whether big tech's invincible. But I think maybe it's just a complicated story about whether big valuations are invincible. When you look at the fundamentals, they did pretty well.
Yeah, I agree, John. They did very well, and I think you hit the nail on the head when you're talking about this is a market where these companies are extremely strong, and they're continuing to be strong, even in the pandemic, which is hurting so many other businesses. But expectations are really through the roof on a lot of these. You know, you mentioned Apple a few minutes ago. It's still at a record high valuation, ahead of an iPhone cycle, and people are calling a super cycle, but they weren't even really confident enough to put a specific revenue projection on the December quarter even. So I think there's, you know, you can parse in, I'm sure it's going to be a good cycle for them, but where expectations got so high, you're starting to see, I think, a bit of a come down to realism here.
Yeah, Ross, I wonder about Apple not giving guidance here because it's weird. I mean, they can see what demand is in calendar Q4. They almost always can't make enough phones to meet demand. Surely they must have some idea how many they can make. And plus, e-commerce is hot, and Apple's got a great direct channel. What do you do with Apple here, and how much are you paying attention to this lack of guidance?
You know, I think the lack of guidance is a reasonable thing for the most conservative guiding CEO out there, you know. So he does, with COVID kind of flaring up again and obviously not being really sure what iPhone in China is going to do. Is it at the bottom now, or is it, you know, even going to get worse for iPhone in China? I think it was prudent of Tim, but this is just about valuations to me. Apple has been trading at 18 and 16 times earnings forever. Now it's at 32 times earnings. And, you know, you look at Apple, it's actually higher than that. And you look at the fact they've bought back so much stock to boost earnings while revenue has only grown a little over the years. But actually now they're in, I think, a much better position they were in than like a year or two ago because of the pandemic. So, yeah. and their focus on services. So for us, it's just a valuation thing. We have no change in our feelings for Apple. I'm super bullish for Apple over the next year with the 5G cycle and services and wearables doing so well.
Yeah.
I think the main issue is if you're going to pay, you can't buy back stock at 35 times earnings, you know?
True, true. All right. Well, Dan, what do you do going back away from Apple for a moment here to the internet and specifically social media stocks? What do you do? I mean, we're going to talk a bit about this later, but Steve Leisman's going to bring us some data talking about how people don't trust social media, but boy, are they using it, right? Because the revenues are through the roof. We're talking for a while this year about the advertiser boycott. That was nothing. The advertisers aren't boycotting. If anything, the users are taking a step back, but is that really a fundamental issue?
You know, it could be. We've seen some blips of this before where usage seems to either go down or slow, you know, especially right after Cambridge Analytica, we saw a blip in that. It's hard. Honestly, it's hard to know because I think what we're seeing in social media is an interesting phenomenon where users are spreading out a bit. We saw fantastic numbers with Snapchat, with Pinterest, where, you know, stories where I think the political stuff takes more of a backseat because politics aren't such a big part of those platforms. But Facebook, again, you know, dealing with all these challenges and scrutiny from government, still brought in huge ad numbers. I think because overall with online advertising, you know, with e-commerce and everything, there's just a lot of upside drivers there of businesses trying to reach customers where they're at. And that's great for, I think, almost anybody in online advertising right at the moment.
Okay, so Ross, what do you do with Facebook here? I know you own it. I mean, on the one side, Adobe's projecting a monster holiday season for e-commerce, twice the growth that you normally get in a year, and those retailers are going to have to advertise somewhere on Facebook in order to get those users to show up to them. So that's good. But then on the other side, you've got Facebook saying they're spending more money. Users are down, I believe, in the U.S. and Canada, and they've got these regulatory hurdles. So do you buy more, do you sell it, or do you just hold tight?
You know, honestly, Facebook's numbers were much more impressive than Apple's, and their growth is amazing, and their cash position, and certainly Instagram continues to dominate social media. Our studies are showing that kids are using social media more than ever before. They're just using new platforms like TikTok, and lots of platforms like YouTube are doing very well. We saw that with Google's numbers. So Facebook has nothing to fear other than TikTok, really, and the government. You know, Facebook is a stock that I really don't like, actually. So we own some of it because some of our clients want to own it, but we don't recommend it because we look at it like cigarettes. So cigarettes are really, really profitable, and Facebook's really profitable, but you have to sort of, you know, put your morals in your pocket if you're going to buy this stock. But if you don't care about those issues, Facebook is going to be in a prime position for a long time, and Oculus is also starting to really rev up, and we're more positive on VR over the next couple of years as well. So, you know, I don't love the company, but you can't argue with its success.
It's finally the year for VR, you say, and TikTok, wasn't that supposed to be banned? Whatever happened to that? All right, Ross.
Well, that was Facebook's goal. That was what Facebook wanted.
Ross, Dan, thank you.